I'm wondering if somebody can do a wellness check on my brother and his family. They've been really sick for probably like the past week and a half, and I can't seem to get a hold of them.
Okay, give me just a moment. And the, let me see, I think you said 202 Reserve Place, that's your address?
202 Reserve Place in Celebration.
Okay.
I'm calling from Connecticut, so I mean, so there's no way for me to easily check. He doesn't have any of the family down there. I had actually called on December 29th, and I had an officer go out because I was concerned. My brother and his family, they had all been sick, but there's actually been more developments. There's actually an active, and I just in conversations with my sister, my sister-in-law was making a comment about, and we just kind of put it all together about basically the world ending on the 28th, and nobody has talked to them. Nobody physically talked to my sister-in-law since the 26th of December, and my brother has stopped texting as of Monday.
Well, hey, everybody. Hey, Allie.
Hello. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you, too.
So
what
a day.
Indeed. I'm a little echoey. What do you have going on in the background, babe?
Hold on one sec.
Okay. While she does that, I'm gonna
Jen.
Yeah, babe.
Is it still echoey?
It is.
Shoot. Okay, one sec.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you real quick while I say hi to everybody. Oh, you muted yourself. Oh, cool. All right. Hi, you guys. Let's see who we got in here tonight. Recliner Detective. Well, thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Hello, Kez Chick. Hey, Anaphylaxis. Hey, Lupe. Hey, Christine Elizabeth. You guys are just so nice. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, hi, Molson Man. Hey, Cement Shoes. I don't want to miss it. Heather, whatever. Hello. Hey, Jody is cool. Welcome back. Good to see everybody in here. Wonderful. Hey, Tony, Amelia Sparkles, Copacabana. Welcome back. Good to see you guys. What a day. Holy. Hi, Momo. Shit snacks. Y'all, I was not, hey, coolest reviews. I was not ready at all for this. At all. Today was crazy. Hey, Anita. Hey, Amelia Sparkles. I don't remember if I said hi or not, so I'll say hi to you twice. You're the lucky contestant today for the 2 times hello, because I can't remember what I just said 2 minutes ago. Oh, my goodness.
Jen.
Yeah, babe.
Is it still echoey?
Nope, you're perfect.
Okay, good.
Hey, Lachette Noir. How are you? Just want to make sure I'm saying hi to all my people because I don't like to be rude. All right. Is what over, anaphylaxis? We just getting started. Hey, Lupe. We are just getting started. All right. So, first, let's all give a warm welcome to friend of the channel, the one and only Allie79, who takes road trips to races, brings back pictures, went on a quest to find that damn ash yellow mug. I'm sorry, let me address the mug correctly. The antique yellow mug. Hey, nonstop mom. Whew. What a day, huh?
Yeah, I'd say. I don't know what is more like mind-blowing. Amber Heard's tattletale post-it notes or what is his name? Last name Todd. Or
Todt.
Todt. His testimony yesterday and then him being unable to zip his lip after the jury came back. Wow.
Well, let me just say this. I'm still not recovered from his testimony from yesterday. Y'all, I'm telling you, the further it got into the testimony, and Sugar Beet kept putting in the chat, just wait, Jen, it's gonna get worse. And I was like, Copa, he was a physical therapist. She kept I don't know if she's a she or not. So Sugar Beet kept putting in the chat, Jen, just wait, it gets worse. And I kept thinking to myself, how could this possibly get worse? Bruh, it got worse every single time. So basically, by the end of the night, I was left with like 3 functioning brain cells, and all 3 of them were arguing. It was horrible. It was insane. Insane. However, remember what I told you guys last night about the snowbirds? Remember what I said? I said, it's December. That's peak snowbird time. The prosecutor used that in her argument today. Yeah. I went right to Allie and I said, hey, Allie. The prosecutor said the thing I said today.
That was so cool.
It was. It was a little like, I don't know, just good. Like, it was just cool. And then she said something else. So I was waiting, because of course they say it's going to start at 9, right? So here I am watching it at 9 o'clock on the dot, right? I'm thinking, okay, they're going to take a minute to get situated, and I'll listen to the closing arguments while I go hose myself off, right? So I was waiting, and they're just like first of all, the defense got up and they were like, Anthony hasn't eaten today. And I'm thinking to myself, look, okay, maybe he didn't eat that morning. And I'm not suggesting that anybody be starved. We don't offer cruel and unusual punishment here in the United States, not even in the Floridas. Okay. People deserve to eat. But look, let's be honest. Big boy ain't missed no meals in a very long time. Okay.
Yep.
Didn't he want to lose weight anyways? Okay. So I was annoyed by that. And then his other issue was that he hadn't been given access to a razor.
Oh my God.
He'd been given access to an electric razor, but it wasn't working. And I was like, is that really, you got excuses for everything. So really, you're going to blame that horrible flat top on the jailhouse razor, whatever. Okay. So then I'm still waiting. Right. And then finally I hear them say that they're going to bring the jury in at 10 o'clock. So I'm like, all right, what I'll do is, I'll straighten up around the house a little bit and then I'll go hose myself off. So that's exactly what I did. So I am in the shower. I am midway. This might be too much information, but at this point, y'all, we've been through it together and y'all can just hear it. I was midway through shaving my leg. Okay. And she started talking about his testimony from the day before and how he had this is the other thing she said that I said, how in his confession he kept saying we, right? But in his testimony yesterday, they were her kids. She killed her kids. And I said to myself, girl, we almost get out of my head. I got enough voices in there without you, Madam Prosecutor. But I said that yesterday too. Why did he change it? That was the other thing. And she also mentioned something about the stabbing. And I had a little thought about that because the argument could be made when I'll tell you when we get there. But anyway, okay. So then I'm like, all right, I'm not going to listen to all the closing argument, right? So I finished and then I was like, I'm going to jog on over. Not literally. I guess this might be a tote jog because that fool doesn't look like he's jogged nowhere and ever. Right. So it wasn't a literal jog. It was a metaphorical jog I did. I'm going to jog on over and see what's going on in the Depp Heard trial. So I get there and it's the couple's therapist and she's testifying and I was like, oh, well, I don't know if I really want to hear all this. Let me see what's going on over there in the Todt trial. So I flip back over to the Todt trial. Jury's out. And I'm thinking, oh, all right, we're approaching the lunch hour. They're going to have their lunch on the state's dime. No biggie. We're going to hear from them right after lunch, like 2 p.m. tops, right? 2 p.m. comes, I'm checking back. No. 3 o'clock comes, I'm checking back. No. 7 o'clock here, right? Isn't that when I sent that message, Allie? Was it 7 my time? I feel like that's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, 7 Eastern. They come back with the thing. And the thing is that the longer they took, I started to get worried, not about how they were going to find for the kids. I was pretty sure that the state had proven first degree there, because even if you believe that, if you believe his confession where he said that Megan did it all, or well, one of his confessions was that he did it, he was taking responsibility, and then his testimony yesterday was that she did it all, right? He did say in his confession that he aided, right? So I felt, and that they discussed it and that they talked about it with their kids, right? Which is an element of premeditation, even though there's no actual length of time. If nothing else, that's premeditated, discussing it, making a plan. What are we going to do? All that kind of stuff. Okay. So I was pretty sure they were going to come back with the situation with the kids, but I was worried about how they were going to find for Megan, because I got irritated and I was listening to the jury instructions and I was listening to the explanation of the lesser charges. And I was thinking they might find him guilty of second degree or manslaughter for Megan. That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking, that they were like really deliberate, going back and forth on. I mean, I don't know though, but what it ended up being, but the longer it took, the more nervous I was getting. And then, we're going to let me just get let me just get to it, because it's too much.
Jen, wait a second. I've got a question.
Okay. Tell me your question.
What in the hell? So he said, what do you mean? He said he aided in it?
So
like they were gonna like this was like a Lori Vallow thing?
well, excuse me. Oh, now we're echoing again. Okay. So what he said in his confession was that he held down one of the little boy's legs, one of his son's legs, I believe it was. And that he also said that he smothered Zoe. He said he smothered all three of them, but he said that this is in his confession, not his testimony. But he said in the confession that Megan was standing in the doorway of each room as this was happening, encouraging him and pushing him to continue, basically. So, yeah, I was like, oh, okay. So, hold on a second. I want to get to here we go. Oh, let me add Allie back. Oh no, there's Mo. Hey Mo.
Hey,
What you doing? How you feeling?
hold on. I gotta mute my other one.
Okay. So, that's where the element I thought premeditation would come in at, because he also said in his confession that they sat and talked about this plan. All right. So I really thought that they had proved the element of premeditation when it came to the kids. What I was worried about was the testimony from the medical examiner, because the medical examiner could not determine with any degree of medical certainty whether or not those stab wounds were self-inflicted or they were done by somebody else. So I thought the jury might be getting hung up on that part with respect to her.
But okay, so, and I'm sorry, I'm probably going backwards, but
No, you're
this
fine. This is what we're here for.
how many, do we know how many stab wounds she had?
2.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, so I guess it is possible that she could do it herself, but after one big honkin' stab, don't you think you would not have the strength to do a second round?
Well, the thing is that it doesn't really, it really doesn't matter, because let's say he's telling the truth. Let's say that her stab wounds were self-inflicted. They weren't lethal.
Well, then how did she die?
She died from Benadryl overdose.
Oh, she did?
Yes.
See, they went so fast. I missed a lot of stuff, I guess.
None of the stab wounds would have resulted in death. None of them were lethal. Which is why the medical examiner had to go through great lengths when she was explaining it to the jury with respect to the boys, because the pictures were so gruesome, and they looked, but what the gruesomeness of it was a result of the death process, not what was actually done to him. Does that make sense? Because after you die, you bloat, especially if it's warm. So that's
Well,
why.
then what's Anthony's excuse? Because he's pretty bloated.
Oh, he's just a glutton. He's gluttonous. Sedentary lifestyle, lack of portion control, and that's it. I mean, losing weight, I mean, he's a physical therapist. It's a very easy, I mean, it's not easy to do, but because of human beings, right? I mean, food is everywhere. But the truth of the matter is, the only thing you have to do to lose weight is put out more calories than you take in. So, he's just, I've never seen anybody in my entire life make a prison jumpsuit look like a onesie. I've never seen that in my life. I've never.
Well, he said the son was done post-mortem. I'm not sure about the wife.
The boys. Boys. No, when he When he confessed, he said that that is how they died, that he stabbed them. They were alive when he stabbed them. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And but that's why they kept asking him about it in the interrogation, because the detectives that were speaking to him were attending the autopsy, and they
Oh,
knew
that's
that
right.
they
That's
were
right.
inflicted post-mortem, which this is another thing. Even if his testimony was conflicting, because he testified yesterday that she was covered in blood, not her own blood. This is before she got a hold of the knife. This is when he came in and she was standing at the top of the stairs. He said that she was covered in blood. He also said that when he checked on the boys, he saw blood. Well, how could you see blood that wasn't there? There was no blood because they were not done while the boys were alive. They were inflicted after the fact.
Well, I mean, he did see his grandma in the chair.
This is before all the Benadryl. This is he came home, remember, from sleeping in the car.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it's all a lie. The science is science. Okay.
You think?
It is what it, science is science. If the medical examiner has no reason to lie about the findings of the autopsy. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But yeah, let me hang on just a second.
I don't know if you can say that, recliner, but I agree it's a good question.
Yeah, it's YouTube doesn't like that word. So if you could just please use self-harm or please. Well, first you would have to prove that she on her own ingested the Benadryl. How does one prove? How would one prove that? I think recliner detect. No, it's okay. A lot of people don't know that. It's just YouTube just got all.
I did it yesterday, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, don't feel bad. But how would you prove that? That's what I was curious. I was thinking that the jury, they may have gotten hung up on that element with respect to Megan, because it would be difficult to prove who ingests how, right? But it would be, hey, sugar beet, it would be difficult to prove given the circumstances, meaning they were there, it's not like they were discovered immediately. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's only so much an autopsy can show. But the children certainly didn't choose to ingest toxic levels of Benadryl.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is her stab wounds weren't lethal. So if she had intentionally ingested this is what's interesting about it. The only person who was incapable of ingesting enough Benadryl was Anthony. Which means but I will say this. The only part that didn't make sense to me about the state's case was the motive. I'm going to let you guys listen to it because we still have a lot to go through with, right. And that's what I was thinking. See, I was thinking that it's possible, recliner detective, that when the jury heard his confession, his interrogation video, and when coupled with his testimony, they may have thought that more than anything, he was guilty of second-degree murder or manslaughter. That's what I thought that they were wrestling with. So when they read the verdict, I was like a little stunned, because either way, let's say he had been found, let's say he was acquitted of Megan's death completely. The 3 counts of first-degree murder are a life without parole sentence. So, I mean, it's possible he didn't, but I don't see why. I don't know. I'm going to, let me add this to the stream and move us around a little bit here at the bottom so you guys can all see this. All right. Are we ready? Here we go. I'm going to just speed her up just a tiny bit because, we still have a lot to go through. I'm only putting it to 1.25. All right. Ready? Here we go.
The state of Florida is entitled to divide this time between an initial closing statement and a rebuttal closing statement after the defense has given its closing remarks. Ms. Pennell, would you like the podium? All right. Thank you, Deputy.
Good morning, everybody. The first thing I want to do is thank you for your time in this case. I know that it's been difficult for all of you to take some time out of your personal lives to be here with us today, and you've all been very attentive, so I would like to thank you for that. The reason why we're here today is control. The defendant wanted control. You heard that December of 2019 started out like every other December for Zoe, Alec, and Tyler. They had a concert on December 6th that they went to. They had an awards banquet on December 14th that they went to. And then everything changed. Sometime between December 14th and December 18th, the defendant took each one of their lives. You heard testimony from some of the 911 operators at the sheriff's office. And you had the opportunity to hear some pretty pleading calls from the defendant's own sister asking for somebody to.
We're going to be here, Chick, because we're going to go over this and Johnny Depp.
And she told law enforcement the family's been sick because that's what she's been told. They couldn't speak to the family during Christmas because they had the flu. What you learned later.
Okay, I just thought of something else too. Hold on, about the Benadryl packaging. All right. So the Benadryl packaging was tested for fingerprints. Okay. And hey, Shmita. And the only fingerprints that were on the packaging were his. Now, it meaning, because she explained this, that yes, they did not have a comparative sample of Megan Todt's fingerprints. Okay. However, there weren't fingerprints found that didn't match Anthony Todt. That's now I remember. Now it's all coming. Look, the synapses are firing. My brain cells are regenerating, and they've stopped arguing. So, yeah, now I remember. Okay, here we go.
Is that was the defendant telling the family that everybody was sick.
I'll be right back, you guys. The
defendant was using Megan's phone and Tyler's phone and Alec's phone to tell everybody in the family that they were sick. That's why they couldn't talk to them. But something in the defendant's sister did not sit right. So she called again in January. She called on January 10th. And she insisted that somebody go out and make contact with her brother and the rest of the family. What's interesting between the two phone calls is that in the January 10th call, the defendant's sister tells law enforcement that Megan believes the apocalypse is coming. and she just learned about this information. How did she learn about this information? From the defendant. Because we already know Megan's dead. So you heard from law enforcement. Law enforcement tried to make contact with the family. Law enforcement went to both addresses, knocked on the doors, the blinds were closed. The defendant had conveniently parked the family van in front of a different building at the apartment on Longview Avenue. The defendant had started using cash and had continued to check the mail to make sure that nothing suspicious was going to lead somebody to the residence. And finally, on January 13th, the defendant didn't come to the door. Law enforcement opened the door, and that's when they discovered everything that was in 202 Reserve Place. And even when law enforcement is there, the defendant is still trying to be deceptive because he needs to keep control. He told Detective Miller something very interesting in his interview. He told Detective Miller, based upon their beliefs, they bring their children into this world, they should get to decide when they leave. The defendant wanted control. The defendant wanted control over the lives of his kids and of the life of Megan. And you heard from the law enforcement officers that found Alec and Tyler and Zoe and Megan. And you heard that initially they could not find Zoe. Could not find Zoe. Ultimately, they found her after looking through the house for 4 or 5 minutes. The defendant at the bottom of the stairs. I don't know when the last time I saw her. I think she went with you. Oh, maybe you should check the garage. The kids went to a sleepover. Megan's upstairs sleeping. The entire time, the defendant is trying to be deceptive. The defendant tells law enforcement also that he was intentionally deceptive with his family so that he could finish what he started. You heard from the medical examiner, and you heard from the toxicologist, and you heard that all of the members of the defendant's family at the time of their death had diphenhydramine in their system, which is Benadryl. You heard that smothering could not be ruled out because of the state of the bodies. If we know that Zoe, Tyler, Alec, and Megan were killed between December 14th and December 18th, law enforcement didn't go into the house until January 13th. It's almost an entire month. The state of their bodies prevented the medical examiner from doing a full investigation during her autopsy, but she was able to ascertain some key important things. She told you that everybody, including Megan, had no signs or issues with their heart or their liver. The medical examiner also told you that based upon the decomp of the bodies, that there was no more liquid blood left. And the boys both had stab wounds, but she didn't see any signs of hemorrhaging, which indicated to her that the stab wounds likely occurred after the death. And the defense attorney is going to get up here, and that is going to be the key point. You can't believe what Anthony Todt told law enforcement in the interview that you saw, because he said and was adamant that he stabbed the children before they died. And the medical examiner got up here and said the stab wounds were post-mortem. And that's why you can't believe Anthony Todt's statement to law enforcement. But how the defendant describes going into each child's room and killing each of his children is consistent with all of the evidence that was found on scene. It's consistent with, the only inconsistency is the stab wound when it occurred. Everybody's in agreement that there's a stab wound. And the defendant's adamant that they didn't die from a stab wound, they died from suffocation. So what you need to do is really look at the defendant's interview. The defendant very clearly describes how these murders happened. The defendant doesn't remember when they happened, just that they happened sometime before Christmas. That's what his interview said. Now we have some receipts and him knowing that, okay, well, I bought these BB guns after they were dead. So there's a receipt from Academy showing that from December 18th. We know that they were alive on December 14th because of their holiday banquet. The defendant is very meticulous and describes more than one time the order in which each of his children was killed, the manner in which each one of his children was killed, and what he did afterwards. So the defendant told you in his interview, you had the opportunity to see, that after doing some research about the afterlife and considering the fact that Megan was so sick. Megan's so sick, she can't get out of bed. She's frail. She has trouble walking. She's in excruciating pain, all of these things. She had a miscarriage. So she is so much in pain and so depressed that she was looking at these videos of the afterlife, and that's the way we're going to go. So the defendant also tells you in his interview that they sat the children down, including his 4-year-old daughter, and had a conversation with them about this plan, this suicide pact that him and Megan had together. He sat his 4-year-old daughter down and said, what would you do if mommy and daddy died? And then he came to the conclusion that his 4-year-old daughter decided she wanted to die with mommy and daddy. And the same with his 10-year-old son, Tyler, and his 13-year-old son, Alec. Then he had the children gather belongings that were important to them. And you'll see in the photographs, when you have an opportunity to take photographs back there, there is a chest at the foot of the bed in the master bedroom. And on this chest, there's some dolls that you open, and then there's a smaller doll and you open. So that's from Zoe. There is a scarf, a soccer scarf, which is from one of the boys. You'll see a photograph of all 3 of them with the Cookie Monster. And he displays all of these things on this, almost as if it's an altar. And he tells Detective Miller, I had the children pick out their favorite things so that we could put them there. The defendant then tells Detective Miller that we weren't really sure when we were going to do this, so we made sure we bought some clothes for Alec just in case he was alive. I bought some fishing lures just in case we decided to go fishing before I killed them. The defendant rather nonchalantly describes murdering his children. And on the day that he does this, he tells law enforcement, and you got to hear it, that set an alarm for 11:30 p.m. so that he could wake up to accomplish.
Objection, that's not in evidence.
That's the attorney's objection.
Okay, so real quick, while they're at the bench, the thing is that what the prosecutor is saying is that Anthony Todt, for the most part, aside from when the stabbings occurred to the boys, was telling the truth about his confession. Okay, the thing is, but the problem is the state. Well, I can't say state. The medical examiner was unable to say for certain that any of them died as a result of suffocation because of the condition of their bodies, which is why their cause of deaths are all listed the way that they are. All right, she's back talking. I don't want to be rude.
11:30 at night. We set the alarm for 11:30 at night and got up out of bed, and it was Zoe first. That's what the defendant said to Detective Miller. The defendant then describes going into Zoe's room, and he describes laying there for a little while, getting up his courage. And ultimately, he rolls over on top of Zoe, and you saw how the defendant looked in his interview. That was approximately a month before or after the death. So that size is accurate as to what his size was at the time. And you heard the medical examiner talk about the weight of Zoe. And the defendant rolled over on top of her and suffocated her. And he described that this took about 15 minutes, but she really only kicked and screamed for about 3 or 4. The defendant then said, I put some covers on her so that she would stay warm. And I want to point out the fact that he talks about that in his interview, because yesterday you heard him say, when Megan told him that she killed the children, that he goes to Zoe's room first, because everything is in the same order. So he goes to Zoe's room first, and he goes and gets a wash rag, and he goes back and he closes her eyes and shuts her mouth with the wash rag, because it's the fatherly thing to do to make sure that she's comfortable. That's what the defendant told you yesterday. Now, after he's done killing Zoe, the 4-year-old, he goes to Alec, and Alec is upstairs. Alec is the 13-year-old boy. Alec's the oldest. He also described on the stand yesterday that Alec's the strongest. And he goes and he suffocates Alex. And how he describes it to Detective Miller is also very nonchalant. And he also indicates to Detective Miller that he stabs Alec in the abdomen. He's looking for the umbilicus or this vein that is supposed to help Alec bleed out quickly. Then the defendant goes downstairs to Tyler. Conveniently, Alec and Tyler are separated. They share a room. You had an opportunity to see the photos. Their beds normally are close together, but conveniently on this night, they are separated. And Tyler's downstairs on the couch. And I made sure to ask the defendant yesterday, was it a pull-out?
Get out of my head, Sugar Beet. I was just thinking that. What if some voices had come through during that? Ooh, been scary. We can't talk too much about that because Kes check. Okay, here we go.
Couch, was the couch open? You know, what was going on with the couch at the time that Tyler was killed? So not only did the defendant go in there and suffocate Tyler and stab Tyler's body, but the defendant, after he moved Tyler, took the time to put the couch back, put all the cushions back on the couch, make sure everything was all organized and put away. There was a stuffed animal sitting on the couch. It looked undisturbed. Now, then after all the children are dead, the defendant decides, with Megan, according to his statement, that he's going to kill Breezy. So they put a blanket down on the master bedroom bed. They call the dog up onto the bed, and the defendant grabs the dog's snout and suffocates the dog and kills the dog. The defendant then wraps the dog in a blanket and puts it in a dog bed under the nightstand. And it was at this point that the defendant does describe this plan, and Detective Miller specifically asks him, if you had everything so planned, if this was the plan and it had to happen, and this is what you were going to do for the afterlife, why didn't you know who was going to die first? Why was there a question as to who was going to die before Megan or the defendant? The defendant then tells law enforcement that Megan stabs herself, not once, but twice. And there's a bit of time between each stabbing where they're laying in bed hoping that Megan's going to bleed out and die. And the defendant is very detailed in describing everything that happened between each stabbing. The defendant says that Megan was getting aggravated because it wasn't working. She was chugging Benadryl. She was chugging wine. She was taking Tylenol PM. She was doing all of these things in an attempt to kill herself. And you heard from Dr. Nora yesterday that, actually 2 days ago, that
I laugh at those too, Tony.
none of those stabbings
Not
were
all
fatal.
of them, but when like the cuss words come out, I'm
And
very juvenile.
ultimately, the defendant takes a pillow and puts it over Megan's head until she dies. Now, something that I want to point out to you about his testimony yesterday, because the defendant says yesterday that he came home, Megan said she killed the kids, he went and checked on each kid, and then Megan stabbed herself. And at some point, he's given her CPR. You heard from the medical examiner that the stab wounds weren't fatal. He jumps into CPR. He says the cell phones are hidden, but he doesn't call out for help. He doesn't try and get help. He describes the situation that he just comes home and all his children are dead. It's morning. And when I asked him specifically, well, did you go to a neighbor? Did you try and get help? He says, well, we live in a snowbird area, right? It was December.
Here it comes.
It was December. This would be prime time for everybody to be at their houses. It's the morning, you know, it's unrealistic to believe that there was nobody there.
That's right. You know what? I'm thinking about that. I was reading what Cement Shoes had put. Let me scroll back up so I can get it. I mapped out Celebration from my casa, and it's only like an hour and 42 minutes. And I know that Mo is planning to come visit. I feel like we should go out there, Mo, and see why nobody lives in that house. I think we should do it.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, good. Let's get in trouble. All right, here we go.
Okay.
We're definitely going to get in trouble. Just kidding. I'll wear my Don't Hassle Me, I'm Local shirt. It'll be fine.
And also, something that's very interesting about what the defendant told you yesterday is how he described Megan. When the defense was
Hey,
questioning the
Rubberhead,
defendant,
good to see ya.
the defendant was very emotional describing Megan. He was describing himself as a very loving and devoted husband. He would do anything for his wife. And it made him choke up as he's describing this to you. And he was very detailed, used a lot of adjectives. But you also got to see a different side of the defendant yesterday. The defendant did not shed one tear when I was talking to him. In fact, he was pretty angry with me.
That's a good idea, Nonstop Mom.
And I had him describe going into each child's room and finding his children dead, something that he did not talk about on direct examination. And he was just angry. And something else that I'll point out to you is he described himself as this loyal, I'll do anything, I'll take the blame for Megan man. But something very interesting that he said is Megan killed her kids. Megan killed her kids, not our kids, not my kids, her kids. And something also about what he says, because he kind of changed his statement. And the judge is going to tell you, or he did tell you, that you have to look at the defendant's statement yesterday, just like you would every other witness. You have to weigh what he said with the other evidence that you have in the case. You also have to weigh his statement within. Is his statement consistent with the rest of what he's telling you?
Right.
Is his statement consistent with?
It wasn't. Spoiler alert. Okay. I would never take anything from that house or any house where anything like that happened, because I believe in that stuff, and I believe that you leave when things happen, good and bad, that there is a residual energy that is left, and I do not want to bring that residual energy to my house. No, thank you. No, thank you. Okay, here we go. Yeah, here we go.
The evidence. Is his statement consistent? Well, we know it's not consistent with what he told law enforcement, right? So some of the things that he told you yesterday, he told you when he had first got home, Megan's shirt's covered in blood. What happened? He just came out of the bathroom. What happened? And he runs and he checks on Zoe, right? So Megan just told him, I killed our kids. This is why, because the afterlife, and she's trying to explain to him, and she's following him around because miraculously on this day, she was pain-free. Every other day of her life, she was in enough pain to kill herself and her children, but this day she's pain-free. So she's pain-free, running after him as he's checking on his children. He runs past Alex's room to Zoe's room because Zoe's his princess. That's what he said yesterday. He sees Zoe and goes to the bathroom, gets a washcloth to close her eyes. Meanwhile, he's been told his other two children are dead. He doesn't go from child to child to child. He takes the time, he goes to the bathroom, gets the washcloth, wets the washcloth. He tells you yesterday, well, I didn't have a chance to wet the washcloth between each one. Does that make sense to you? Something that's great about being a juror is you don't have to check your common sense at the door when you come in. You get to bring it back with you in deliberation, or you get to bring it in here. And
okay, I will. Cement Shoes.
the defendant
Absolutely.
says after all this,
I'll
Megan's
look that
following
up.
him around and he tells her, I just want you to get help. I'll take the blame. I just want you to get help. Because he's got to explain why he told law enforcement he did it. So I'll take the blame. And then after she stabs herself and he tries CPR, then that's when he yells out the window, but nobody answers. The defendant sat in that house for over 3 weeks with his dead family. The defendant, although he denied it yesterday, told law enforcement he went to Sarasota.
Yeah,
after
I
they
do
died. He's
recliner.
going to Academy. He's
It wouldn't be
going
me.
to
I wouldn't
Publix,
take
He's
nothing.
going to CVS. He's going to Walgreens. He's going to all these places using cash at all these places. He's checking the mail. He's pulling in packages. And his family he had moved them all to the same room. He put rosaries in all their hands. He covered them all up with blankets. He's also putting a lot of plug-ins. There's candles in the trash. There's air purifiers that are stacked in this room. And he is living in this bedroom with his dead family. And he tells you, the whole time, I was just trying to get the courage to kill myself. He had the courage to kill his 4-year-old daughter. So he tries hanging, and you saw a picture of the ratchet strap. He tries zip ties that he tied around his neck, that he cut off, that he conveniently left out in the open. He tries BB guns. He tries Benadryl. He tries all these different ways to kill himself for 3 weeks.
Motor oil, peeing his pants.
He also takes the time to write a typed note to leave it in case, and you'll get it. You didn't get to read it in here, but you'll get a chance to read it when you deliberate because the note's in evidence, so you'll get a chance to look at it. And during his interview with law enforcement, he uses the word "we" throughout the interview. And something that he said yesterday is he's going to take the blame. He loves Megan. He's loyal to Megan. He's a loving husband, a loving father. He takes every opportunity to play with his kids because he doesn't know, when will get the last opportunity. He included Megan on everything he told law enforcement. It wasn't, I take the blame, she didn't do anything. They did it together, is what he tells law enforcement. He is the one that carried out the killings, but she's in the doorway encouraging him. There are a lot of things within his statement he said to me yesterday that are inconsistent. He describes in detail the fact that they had leftovers for dinner. The kids ate, but he didn't eat. He had a shake. He then, after dinner, gets in their family van and drives over to 211 Longview. Realizes he forgets his tools, so he walks back to 202. Plays basketball with his kids. He doesn't know. The sun's still up. He didn't tell me a time. The sun's still up. He walks back with the bag of tools to 211, realizes his phone's about to die. So he sits in his van and charges his phone. But when I specifically asked him if he had a phone when he found out his family was dead, he said, well, I fell asleep in the van, but the van wasn't on, so the phone didn't charge, and I didn't know the phone didn't charge. When you plug a phone in, you know whether it's charging or not. And the defendant wants you to believe that he slept an entire night in this van with it off. So the defendant wakes up and he realizes he's late and he's got to get back because he doesn't want his wife to be mad because he's got to do these physical therapy moves on her to help her. So he rushes back, but he leaves the van there and walks back. And he goes in the house, and that's when he discovers all this thing. And something else that you can consider is whether the witness was straightforward in answering the attorney's questions. The defendant, I told you, we're here because the defendant wants control. The defendant tried to control everything yesterday, too. I would ask a question, the defendant would give an answer that he wanted to give, and then we would have, it's a yes or no question, and there was a lot of back and forth between both of us. The defendant was trying to ask me questions. He wants control. The state's burden, as the judge told you, is beyond a reasonable doubt. The judge told you that it's not a possible doubt, speculative doubt, imaginary forced doubt. It's a reasonable doubt. And we talked in jury instruction and jury selection that there's a difference between what's possible and what's reasonable, right? So how you can find a reasonable doubt, if there is one, I submit to you that there's not, is the evidence, a lack of evidence, or conflict in the evidence. The conflict in the evidence comes from what the defendant told you yesterday. Because obviously he gave one complete statement to law enforcement and a completely different statement to you in court yesterday. The two cannot be resolved. So you're going to have to decide which version you believe. I submit to you that what the defendant told law enforcement makes the most sense in this case. The defendant took the life of Zoe. He then went and took the life of Alec, then Tyler, then the family dog, and then ended with his wife. And now we're here. The state's confident that you're going to return verdicts in this case.
Thank you, sir.
And boom. All right. Give me just a second and I'll get the defenses for you guys. That was a rather good closing argument. In fact, I think that her closing argument was far better than her opening statement for sure.
I agree. And can you imagine having to try to make sense of what all happened yesterday? I think she did a very good job.
Yeah. I mean, the motive for me is a little, but keep in mind, and I always have to, it's really, I'm saying this for myself more than I'm saying it for you guys, but that the state doesn't have to actually prove motive. It's just, you know, most of the time they will offer a motive. And to me, I kind of am not buying the motive that this was like a chazzle dazzle situation where all of his lies were about to catch up with him. And he did this in an effort to prevent his family from finding out, because frankly, if that were his motive, I think he would have been successful in his attempts. I can't honestly say what his motive was, to be fair. I don't know.
His family, when she called 911, she mentioned about the end of times thing.
Yeah,
so
but
maybe that was a part of it.
But he's the one that sent that to her from her phone. She was already
okay.
dead. See, when we heard that on the 911 call, right? I was kind of curious about it. And I couldn't figure out where that piece of the puzzle fit in until her closing arguments. What he had done is unalived the entire family, but in between, because they didn't even, so the first 911 call or the first wellness check was done on December 29th. They were already unalived by the 18th. And on the calls, and I can't remember if it's the December 29th one or the January 10th one, but his sister says that she mentions having gotten texts from her nephew, from him, and from the sister-in-law, but it was after the 18th. That part I know for sure, because he has said repeatedly, even yesterday, he said that they were no longer on this earth alive after the 18th. So there's no way that they could have sent those texts.
Right.
It was him. She put that together at the very end. But I cannot.
Wonder if he Googled people who unalived their children and came up with Lori Vallow, and so he started that story.
I mean, I don't know. It could. I think if he had, they would have brought it up because they looked. I don't know what his motive was, to be quite honest with you. I do not. I just don't think it was I don't think that it was in an effort to keep his wife from finding out about the situation with their medical practice up in Connecticut, because it was her. She was part of it, so she would have known.
I also don't think that the end of time stuff was in his Google history, because why wouldn't the defense bring that up?
They did. Well, they did.
Oh, they did.
Well, the prosecutor did. The prosecution did. There was no evidence of those. There were evidence of some videos that were watched about the afterlife, but if I remember correctly, it was after the time when they would have been dead.
Wow, okay. Sorry, I've missed some stuff.
Yeah. I don't understand what his motive was.
I don't either.
Okay,
Because, go ahead, Allie, go ahead.
I don't understand how he first just tells the truth and then all of a sudden changes during the trial. I mean, I understand the dude is just nuts, right? But how do you go from, giving great detail and then going to the other extreme that, she stabbed everyone?
Because it's lies.
Well, right, but did he forget what he said in the beginning?
Well, this is my thing. If he did this is I caught this during the interrogation, but to be quite frank with you guys, by that point in the interrogation, I had already taken my night gummies and they were starting to kick in. So I knew it was going to open up a discussion, and I just didn't bring it up. But one of the things that he said in the interrogation was that I got distracted by chat and I lost my whole train of freaking thought.
Oh no, I'm so interested.
I know, it's a big one too. It'll come back to me.
Oh man.
Ask me what you asked me again, Allie.
How he can, he must have just forgot that he admitted to everything.
There's a clip. I know what I was going to say. There's a part in the interrogation where he says, I'm just going to take responsibility for it all. That itty bitty utterance is what he eventually decided to go with on the stand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He knows exactly what he said. He knows exactly what he said in that interrogation room, and he knows exactly what he said. He knows exactly what he did. He knows exactly what he did.
Yeah, he's just an idiot. Wow. This is like a whole nother level of idiot, because his lies suck so bad. I almost feel bad making fun of him because it was so uncomfortable. His lies were so uncomfortable.
They were, and I think that I don't think that he is an unintelligent person. Okay. He did dumb stuff. It's kind of like Chris Watts. Everybody thinks that Chris Watts is stupid. And the truth is that Chris Watts is dumb, but he's not stupid. There's a difference. I think Anthony Todt is dumb, but he's not stupid. And I think from the very beginning of all of this, from when he first had the initial idea to unalive his entire family, including the poor dog, for Pete's sake, he was working out all of the if then but clauses. And I think that to a large extent, as difficult as it would have been for anyone, and let's put away the emotional part of having your entire family deceased in your home. Just take away the emotional part of it and think about it from a logical standpoint. The smell would be unreal. I don't know if any of you guys have ever smelt death, but if you have, it is a smell that you will, when they say you will never forget it, you won't ever forget it. You will know it from then on, from the minute you smell it until the end of your days. You will always remember that smell. And if you ever smell it again, you'll know exactly what it is.
Well, yeah, I've never smelt death. Okay. So, but like, tell me, what is it?
It is indescribable. It is the most pungent, sticks in your nostrils. Like you can smell it and be away from it and you'll still smell it. It does not go away. It is just such a distinct, strong odor that, yes, I mean, death, a mammal who has passed, we are mammals, we all kind of smell the same. And that's the truth. So if you've ever smelt a dead animal, it's very close to smelling what it's very similar to what a dead body smells like. It's death. Death smells the same. It's bad and it sticks with you. And so if you take away the fact that it's somebody that you took vows, number one, with your wife that you would protect, then you had children, and it's like an unwritten law, right? That you protect your children and you keep them safe and you don't harm them, right? That's all of the things that he did were intentional. He intentionally put off anybody having any type of suspicion. And it started with his own family, his extended family, his sisters. Okay. He texted from his son's phone, he texted from his wife's phone, and he texted from his own phone. But he did not have a phone on the day of the event. They were all hidden, and he never talks about when he found them, but he did, right? Obviously. So bottom line, all of that was done. He intentionally left them in the manner that he left them for the period of time. He probably would have gone on much longer, but for law enforcement showing up and opening the door, which was unrelated to any of the welfare checks. It had to do with the Medicaid fraud from Connecticut. The reason that local police were there is because the local police often go on in situations like that. But at the end of the day, all of those staying in that home with his family was done intentionally to make it difficult for the truth about what he had done to be found out.
Okay, so I have an like off the cuff question.
Okay.
So this guy now is in prison. So what do they do? What?
Well, he's not in prison yet, but he's going there.
Yeah, okay. So what do they do with them? They just like throw him in there. They don't try to like rehabilitate his brain or anything. They just like, this is it.
Well, hold on. What would be the point of rehabilitating him? He's never getting out, number one. But they do offer programs. What'll happen to him is he will go, right now, he's sitting over there in the Osceola. Is that how you say it? I'm not going to say it right. Forget it. That county jail. All right. That's where right by the jail, or right by the courthouse. That's where they hold him. Okay. And after all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, he'll go to like similar to where Chris Watts is, a diagnostic center. Okay. And they will then assess him and determine where his permanent residence will be. And while he is there, he will they'll put him where he's at, and they offer programs in prison, but he's never getting out.
Yeah, like I don't really care if I guess I'm more curious. I wish they would do like experiments on these people, like dissect their brains or, stuff like that, because you just want to figure out what in the hell is wrong. How do you get so nuts to do something like this?
Because it's not really nuts. See, the thing about actually being, and the word crazy is not the right word, but truly insane people never ask if they're sane. If you're questioning your sanity, you're sane. Truly insane people don't do anything to counter, to avoid their being captured or avoid being punished or caught for their crime. I have to bring it back to Andrea Yates. She was completely and totally in a psychosis when she did what she did. She never tried to hide it. She called her mother-in-law. The mother-in-law called 911. The police got to the house, I believe, before she did. And they found the children. Not at any time did she ever not take responsibility. She did nothing to try to hide what she had done. He's not nuts. He is something else. He's a monster. Each and every human being is physically, for the most part, capable of taking a life. Most of us never cross the line, though. That's the difference. There is something in that specific person, their way of thinking, that they end up doing it. And we don't have that. And it doesn't matter how much we speak to these people, and we will never understand it because it will never make sense to us because we don't think that way. He's a monster. It takes a special breed of human to unalive intentionally another human being. It is a completely different level of monster when it's your own children. And that's the truth. And we're never going to be able to understand that.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's the part I hate, because that's what drives me the most nuts with these cases is I want to know. I want a specific answer. Like, I want someone to say, okay, Allie 79, it's because their amygdala or whatever,
usually
swollen.
people like this is their frontal lobe. They have frontal lobe damage because frontal lobe is what controls your anger and your impulse, and that's your emotional sort of part of your brain. And they have done studies on serial killers, and they've looked at their brains, and they have yeah, we do. I wish she would be here, but she's at work, or I don't know what she's doing now. But anyway, she'd probably listen and she'll come up if she hears it. But bottom line is most of them have some damage to their frontal lobe. But it always begs the question, like, look at Recliner Detective's comment here. There's familial history on his side of the family of violence. And so how much of that is nature versus nurture? Would he have still done what he did to his own family if he didn't have that specific experience, right? Was he born like this, or was he created?
See, and that's okay. And I don't want to take up all this time here
No, you're fine.
and get you off course, but that's where I don't understand it. And I'm not going to get wicked personal, but I grew up in a very unhealthy household. Very, very much. I did. And I think I'm at the extreme opposite of this guy Todt, where I'm overly sensitive, like really bad. And so I don't know, maybe that has to do with my experience, but I can't imagine, like my brain can't even imagine, like, oh, this is the plan, like I have money problems, so I'm just gonna start unaliving everyone,
Yeah, I mean, it's murder, straight murder, not self-defense, but actual murder is an irrational act. You cannot rationalize an irrational act. That's why I don't even want to ever talk about Chris Watts ever again, because it does not matter. Even if he were given truth serum, right? And he sat there and he broke it down all the way from A to Z. We will, and then on top of it said why he did it. None of us would ever be able to understand it. It would never make sense. You can't rationalize an irrational thought or an irrational act. It's irrational. They were not a threat to him in any capacity. His life wasn't in imminent or immediate danger. They weren't trying to off him, and so he offed them first. He wasn't defending himself. He had absolutely no motive to do this at all. None. That line of thinking is not rational. Rational thinking would be, bruh, this sucks. I'm probably going to go to prison, federal prison, for my scamming the government. Because that's what it, whether it was Medicaid or Medicare, it's still government funded, and the government doesn't like to be scammed. Period. He was looking at time. So how do you look at time and decide, I don't want to do that time. Let me unalive everybody else in the house besides myself. You're the one that's going to do time. And look, you ended up doing time anyway. And now everybody knows not only are you a thief and a scammer, now you're a murderer and you killed your children. Do you see how that line of thinking is completely irrational? That's your problem solving. Let me unalive everybody. Makes no sense. It's completely irrational.
Yeah.
But here we are talking about these irrational fuckers doing irrational shit for irrational reasons. And Recliner Detective is absolutely correct. There's an element of choice in it. We are all shaped by every single thing that happens to us during our lives, the good and the bad. It is a choice that you make as a human being, what you're going to do with whatever trauma or wonderfulness you experience. Because everybody has had a mix of both at some point in their lives, and that's just the way that it is. We just like irrational shit. And then we try to rationalize it. Like, look at the completely intellectual, unemotional conversation we're having right freaking now. This is why we will never be on the other side of this, because we're rational.
Because we're in the ward.
We're in the ward
protected.
having rational conversations about irrational acts instead of trying to let me do, what am I going to do? Go out and commit a homicide and say I was doing it for research? Oh, it's for science. That's irrational too. If I were to think along those lines, I'll never know what it feels like to kill somebody unless I do it. That's irrational. Or, you know what I mean? Well, it's rational to know that you won't know unless you do it, right? It's irrational to then commit the act. You can't rationalize it. We'll never understand it. That's why they don't make the state prove motive. Now, do we want to watch the, hey, I've learned a lot. Do we want to watch the states or the defense's closing argument, which is 45 minutes long? Or do y'all just want to skip to the good part, which is the verdict, and where Todt loses his mind, for lack of a better word? What should we do, you guys? What do you think?
My vote is we skip to the end because his defense was weak, although they didn't have much to play off of.
No, they really didn't. I mean, how do you come back from that disaster that was his testimony? Good
I
Lord.
know, and I wanted so bad to see Molson Man's face while that all went down. Because he was the one who was really invested in this
He really
case.
was. I thought I saw him in here earlier, but he's quiet now. All right, y'all ready? All right, let me make sure I click the right thing. Oh, yes. Brace yourselves. And go. Spoiler alert, this is the part I came in and told Allie, I think in all caps, that the Todt verdict was in.
Case of the State of Florida versus Anthony John Todt, 2020 CF 149, based on the jury's unanimous verdict as to all counts. The court will now proceed to sentencing. Does the state wish to present any testimony from the surviving victim's family?
Yes, Your Honor, state will call Cynthia.
Thank you, Judge.
I don't think she has sworn for this portion.
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Cynthia Kopko. I am Megan's aunt and godmother to all her children, Alexander, Tyler Bear, that's what I called them, and Princess Zoe and Breezy. I just want to say that Megan lived her life. She had lots of empathy for everyone. Thank you. Lots of empathy for everyone. She had a giving heart. If her neighbors were sick, she would make them soup and bring it over. The kids were very, very talented. They played the piano. They would go, for years, they would go to convalescent homes and play recitals for them on special holidays. And they were in a lot of musical staged things. And when Alec wanted to learn how to play the violin, as they were learning, and Tyler Bear wanted to learn to play the folk guitar, they would still bring those instruments and play them for the people in the convalescent homes while they were learning them after their piano playing. They were very much, I had so many neighbors in the condo tell me how wonderful the boys were and Megan was, and how the boys would babysit and walk their dogs when they were away. And they trusted them fully. Megan and the dog and the children would go on for several walks. And she was very much involved in the academy school that the children went to, and did lots and lots. She was a physical therapist too, and did lots of projects and how all the fingers work with the tendons. And she made strings so they could see how our hands move for a learning experience. And, you know, I got them a microscope because I'm a nurse, so they could see different things in the microscope. They were just fun loving. And all the children, I just have to say something about the communities that were affected. All the children in Celebration that they played with, they had a beautiful basketball hoop, which was donated to the children. And they're going to make a little monument thing out of it. The children would ask their fathers, are you going to kill me at some time? Do you think you're going to kill me? Because the children were, Megan's kids were just so fun loving and giving and loved all their friends and they came to the house. They did all kinds of things together. Went in the little playground areas and climbed things and slid and played games. And that's a lot of trauma for a child to ask their father, are you going to kill me too? So they have to deal with those things now, that community. He crushed my parents. To the children, my mother was the great grandmother, and they just loved going over there. My mom is 95 years old, and you know, we watched them grow up. And my father is 97. He has PTSD from World War II. Love the kids. They would take Megan and Tony on vacations, just like family is family. But for a horrific tragedy like this to happen is a nightmare. It's been 2.5 years. I used to take Megan and the kids all on different vacations to Disneyland, and each child each year got to pick where they wanted to go, and we would go. We'd pack up and everything. Tony crushed his whole family by doing this. Everybody was mortified. We had a tough time dealing with it. I guess pretty much that's about it. But Megan was the gentlest person. She wouldn't even kill a bug, and she was just so kind, full of empathy. And I had warned Megan many times when we used to have things called girlfriend days, where it would be my mother, Megan, myself, and the kids. And we would say, we're going out for the day and we're going to get shoes for all the kids and we'll have lunch. But Megan would get called and she goes, oh, that's Tony. And I said, don't worry about it. We're in the middle of a conversation. 5 minutes later, he would call back again. And she said, oh my gosh. And then she would decline. And then he called me over and over just to get a hold of us to see what we were doing, where we were. And I picked up my phone and I said, stop harassing us. We're having a girlfriend day. You'll be the first to know if we're having any trouble. You'll be the first one we call, so that we could enjoy our day. And April of 2019, I had a talk with Megan because Tony had put on tremendous amount of weight over, a short period of time. And I said, Megan, I'm worried about Tony because he's put on so much weight. I would love to offer him to get ultrasounds of his carotids to make sure there's no blockage, and also of his heart and the coronary arteries to make sure there's not plaque or anything. And he always complained about his legs hurting. So I said, perhaps maybe he has a aortic aneurysm, which is like a weakening of the wall. Maybe he's not getting enough blood circulation. Because when he would sit down, he would just totally fall asleep. I hope I'm not boring you. But we loved Megan and the kids very, very much. And all I have is pictures and memories I can hold in my heart. And my parents miss them, and his parents miss them, and our families miss them very, very much. That's it, Judge.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Thank you for listening to me.
Any additional survivor family and family statements? Does the defense care to give any statements prior to sentencing?
Do you want to address the court? You want to address the court? Shall we come to the lectern?
He can address the court from counsel table. He's welcome to stand.
This was a personal catastrophe in everybody's life in my family, including myself. I maintain my innocence. I provided for my wife, did everything I could for my wife. She was progressively sick over the years. There were days which were worse, days which were better. She was kept on a pedestal from me. My kids I did everything for them. The weight gain, Ms. Kopko has said, was because I negated myself. 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night because I would be treating my wife, doing for my wife, flying back and forth. I appreciated her medical concerns. And the reason why I would call so much is because Megan would have bad days. And I just needed to know she was okay. It wasn't a control factor. It wasn't any kind of scoping things out or whatnot. It was my fear that that something was wrong with her. And I just needed to hear her voice making sure she was okay. I love my wife. I love my children. I was not there the night my children died. The kids and my wife woke up. Sorry. The Friday before all this happened, we got in a disagreement, and I begged her to go get help because she screamed at my son because he didn't do the pot, clean the pot. He let it soak per my instructions. This has been a progressive history since the miscarriage. Her anger issues, her frustration issues, and it was directed mostly at me. And I took it. It's okay, because she held me partly responsible for getting her sick initially because I insisted she went to the hospital. I told her after she finally decided to schedule a doctor's appointment on the Thursday after Thanksgiving, she canceled it. I found that out the night before. When she screamed at Tyler, the Friday the 13th, I told her that she has to the end of the month to see a doctor because she went this alternative and spiritual and all this other route. Or I would get her aunt and my sister involved. After that, she once again held it quiet in public. Okay? She was very good at keeping it from the public. We went to the recital that they did for the convalescent home on the 13th. I was walking on eggshells. I don't like upsetting my wife. My wife was primary and foremost in my life, especially after she got sick. Finally, whatever day it was, and I apologize, I do not have the days because I was on a winter break. I went up to her one night and said, listen, I haven't treated you in a couple days. Just allow me to treat you. Allow me to work on you. And I tried a couple different techniques. As I was working, she was worried about me not loving her anymore. And I told her, no, the footprints, remember the footprints poem? Sometimes you don't think I'm there, but I'm the one carrying you. I will do whatever you need to get ready. That's why I supported you. She knew I didn't believe in this light and this other religion that she went into. But I supported her because that's what a husband does. Everybody has a freedom to choose their own religions. Everybody has a freedom to choose their own acts. She fell asleep, very rested comfortably. I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs. Okay?
Judge Carson doesn't have the authority to overturn the.
No, I understand, but I need to let him know that everything was okay when she woke up the next morning. I kept the kids outside to keep her nice and stress-free. That's the only reason I left to go to the condo that night, because everything was good and there was an opportunity to get things done. As Ms. Kopko said, I fell asleep at a drop of a hat. I have this weight off my shoulders that my wife was feeling great. I went to charge the phone, and I fell asleep. I woke up afraid to be on eggshells or the doghouse again because we just reconciled. I ran back because I could not get the car started. It turns out my seat was too far back. And after that, everything happened. And I lived nothing but a nightmare. Every single suicide attempt, every single nightmare would come out. I relived every nightmare.
God, he's
would wake up
disgusting.
and would see, I was like, oh, that's a nightmare. Would see my family dead. I progressively tried to kill myself over and over and over again because I wanted to be with them. This altar they speak of was a homeschooling project from the week prior. That's all that was. There was no religious seance or anything whatsoever. It was nothing but a homeschooling project that made my wife happy because we were talking about Egyptian pharaoh and pyramids. That's all we were talking about and what they bring in the afterlife.
This is not helping you from this progress on, so I encourage you to.
I'm sorry. I love my wife. I love my kids. They were first and foremost in my life. I did not do this. I provided for my wife, provided for my kids, did everything I could. I understand the jury came back. I understand evidence wasn't heard. I don't remember that time, from the time I fell down the stairs to the time I woke up in the jail. I love my kids. I love my kids every day. It's only recently that I just stopped crying myself to sleep. My kids and my wife were everything to me. They were the center of my universe. When I came home, I was shattered. I appreciate you listening to me, sir. And I know you're in your situation. I did not do this. Thank you for listening to me, sir.
Any additional witness or testimony?
No, sir, Judge Carson.
Yeah, that'll just about do it. Disgusting.
Court has been present during the presentation of evidence throughout the entirety of the trial. A jury has unanimously determined, after listening to the evidence presented, that you, Anthony John Todt, are a destroyer of worlds, that you destroyed the world of your 4-year-old daughter, Zoe Elizabeth Todt, that you destroyed the world of your 10-year-old son, Tyler John Todt, that you destroyed the world of your 13-year-old son, Alexander John Todt, that you destroyed the world of your wife, Megan Denise Todt. The jury has unanimously determined that you murdered each of them with premeditation based on the evidence presented in this room. As to count 1, first-degree murder of Zoe Elizabeth Todt, you are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As to count 2, for the premeditated murder of your son, Alexander John Todt, you are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As to count 3, for the premeditated murder of your son, Tyler John Todt, you are sentenced to life in prison. As to count 4, for the premeditated murder of your wife, Megan Denise Todt, you are sentenced to life in prison. One of those lives was less valuable than the others. Those sentences will be imposed consecutively. You will be adjudicated guilty as to each count. For the murder of the family dog, you are adjudicated guilty and sentenced to the maximum sentence consecutive, which is 1 year in the county jail. You will get credit for any time that you have already served. Madam Clerk?
819 days.
Any costs will be reduced to judgment. The court will order restitution, reserve as to amount pursuant to statute. You have 30 days from today's date to appeal this judgment and sentence. If you wish to do so, you must do it in writing. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. You'll be transferred to the Department of Corrections to serve your sentence. Anything further, State? Anything further, defense, at this time?
No, Your Honor.
That will conclude the trial and sentencing process. State of Florida versus Anthony John Todt has concluded.
Okay, so I know people are confused about why the death penalty was not on the table, and I don't know for 100% fact, but this is what I suspect. So when you are convicted of first degree murder, intentional homicide, and you receive capital, well, really it's when you're charged with capital murder, but you receive capital punishment, right? What happens then is you are immediately granted automatic appeals. Okay. And Florida is reasonably fast with those appeals. However, it's still the appeals process, which means that the family, all of the surviving family, has to go through those every single time there's an appeal. They go through it. It's like there's never closure. It's unending. And at any point, it's very possible for the conviction to be overturned. And it's usually on a technicality. In a case like this, there's other cases where there are actual innocents, but that's why the appeals process is put in place. It's to catch the errors. And I think that the state just didn't want to put the surviving members of the family through all of those appeals year after year after year for
They said that regarding the mental health of the defendant, it wasn't in the best interest of the people of the state to pursue the death penalty.
And
that's why they took it off the table.
The mental health, but they wouldn't allow any mental health in. They fought tooth and
state
nail.
Attorney.
No, I'm not arguing
yeah.
with you. It's interesting that that's what they cited, given the fact that they didn't want any. But I mean, if they had if they had sought the death penalty, then it would have been a different charge, and he would have undergone a mental health evaluation, because it is not legal to execute someone who has mental health issues. So maybe that's why. That makes sense.
Because they said they initially were going to do it, and then the state attorney, right before they left office, said no because of that reason.
Probably less of a chance at an appeal.
I'm glad they didn't.
No, me too. It's like, look, I know people think people like this should be executed, but the truth of the matter is that this guy is indigent. All right. He doesn't have anything, because everything that he may have had at one point is going to go to the restitution. So he is indigent, and I don't know if he got a court appointed or not. Right. But let's say he didn't. Okay. If he didn't, then likely whatever money he had, whatever he went to the attorneys. He's still facing those Medicaid fraud charges. So he would be declared indigent. And if he had received the death penalty, he would be, like I said, he would be subject to automatic appeals. Okay. Now he could waive his right to those automatic appeals. Eileen Wuornos did it, and she was in Florida. And let me say this. She went through more evaluation to decide whether she was sane or competent enough to waive her right to appeals than she ever did before they even tried her in the first place.
Right.
So it's expensive. The death penalty is expensive. You know what I mean? Especially it's not. I mean, especially in other in states that the appeals process is really slow. But here's the thing. Also, in my opinion, in this situation, I don't think the death penalty should have been on the table because he continues to say that that's what he wanted, right?
Exactly.
He wanted
That's what I was
to,
getting ready to say.
and so what are you going to give him what he wanted?
Yeah. That's why another reason I was glad it was off.
And I also personally think that the reason he stood up and said all of that is for nothing else than for them to put him in solitary in isolation on self-harm watch. He doesn't while he waits to see where he's about to go. He doesn't want to be back in the part of the prison or the jail where they put the people who are waiting to be transferred to prison. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to sit in his room, in a cell by himself. Period. And that's why he continued to bring up the self-harm all the time. It's like a living nightmare. I just stopped crying 2 days ago. Bro, you cried more over the freaking tick bite or bug than you cried over your children when you found them. Whether you did it or your wife did it, either way, there should have been. The fact that there were no tears tells me you're the one that did it.
Exactly.
Same with Chris Watts. He didn't shed one even minuscule tear. It's disgusting. Now, moving on from that, Toad, we're going to go over to the Depp Heard trial, but I'm looking for something very specific. Let me look at the playlist and see if it's easier to find that way, because I want you guys to watch. We're going to talk about the what happened today with Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, and then we're going to call it a night. But here's the deal. Todt's over, so his sentencing and everything, so we're done with him. So we have all the time in the world to go through all of the things when it comes to this case. Hold on. I'm going to have to go to the other one. Hold on.
Jen, if you're looking for Amber's black eyes, you're probably not going to find it. I don't think they're real.
No, I'm looking for what's her face that her testimony was stricken from the record. That's what I'm looking for. But let me see what this is. I know it's in here, so I'll just skip through this. Come on. Maybe let's see if it's got timestamps. Here's the assistant, which she's good too, and we're going to come back to her, but I want you guys to see this other person. There's the doctor. This is the part I watched. This must be lunch. Oh, come on. Here it is. All right. Let me push pause. And let me make the share screen. but we're definitely gonna get into what really all the things that took place today, because but Todt needed to be dealt with, and closure on him. And the other thing I wanted to let you guys know is that I don't know if we're gonna. Yes, thank you, Nonstop Mom. I could not remember her name. I should be able to remember her name because I'm the one that threw out the damn Gina gif. So after what happened, but I don't know if we're gonna do a roast Saturday night or not, but I want to let you guys know that I'm gonna go live Saturday afternoon, because I got a lot of we have a lot of people that watch, but the time difference is like horrible. So I want to do that for our overseas friends so they can participate in a chat. So you might be getting a lot of Gen Lu on Saturday, or you might only be getting one Gen Lu on Saturday. Who knows? All right, ready? Here we go. Also, before they all come in, because they're rising for the jury, yada yada yada. I think that somebody has gotten back to Johnny Depp.
All right. Your next witness, Mr.
With respect to his hair, because if you'll notice, today he's wearing the tousled look. When it was a little straighter the last couple of days, you could really see the part. And I think that's what was causing people to think that he had a hair transplant. And today he's got a more tousled look, so it looks thicker, fuller, and you can't see the part as prominently. Also, in the chat today, there were a ton of people saying that Amy Schumer was there. Y'all, I can't figure out. I don't see her. They said that she's sitting behind Amber Heard's attorneys. I couldn't spot her, but if you guys can, let me know and I'll push pause and we'll zoom in or something. We'll figure it out. All right, here we go.
So you say that again, I'm sorry? Okay, can you spell that last name for me?
Deuters.
Thank you.
Aw, Sugar Beet, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. I only got 6 likes. Get him, Recliner Detective. Where's Molson Man with his? Hold on. I think I have something for you guys. Just give me 1 second. Just watch this while you wait for me.
All right. All right, thank you. All right.
And good afternoon, Ms. Deuters.
Hi.
Would you please state your full name for the record?
Yes, it's Georgina Diane Deuters, but I go by Gina.
And Ms. Deuters, where are you from?
London.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your occupation is?
I currently am a freelance creator who kind of conceptualizes and shoots and edits photographs and clips, largely for social media.
And how long have you been doing that?
Just a few years. Before that, I was a visual effects coordinator for movies.
And can you tell us just very briefly what that means?
It's basically the managing of CG and effects in films, the delivery of, and yeah, just the managing of that. Yeah.
And how long did you do that?
Oh, from 2002 to 2016.
Any films we might recognize?
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Dark Knight, terrible Christmas movie that I won't mention, Pirates of the Caribbean 4. Yeah.
Do you know Johnny Depp?
I do.
And how do you know Johnny Depp?
He is a good friend of mine.
When did you first meet Mr. Depp?
I met him summer of 2005. It was actually at the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory premiere. My husband, Stephen, introduced me to him at a dinner after the premiere. And yeah, he was super sweet and warm and kind of ushered us in to join him at dinner. And I remember being very nervous like I am now. And yeah, that's when we first met.
Okay. You say your husband, Stephen, introduced you to Mr. Depp.
Yeah.
How did your husband know him?
I'm sorry?
How did your husband, Stephen, know Mr. Depp?
Oh, he started working with him on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He started off in production, but then joined the Depp department during the shoot.
And does he still work for Mr. Depp?
Yeah.
and in what capacity?
Well, he started off as like a personal assistant, and it's kind of developed into a producer-writer type role with Johnny's guidance.
So for how long has he worked for Mr. Depp then?
18 years, I think since 2004.
Now, over those 18 years, where has he been working?
All over the place. It depends on where the film is being shot. So Bahamas, Hawaii, London, LA, kind of all over.
And where have you been during this time?
Well, Stephen and I, our first two films, we worked on the same film, but then he went off to do Pirates and I went off to do other films. So I wouldn't always be with them. I know that in between my projects, Johnny was always mindful that me and Stephen didn't spend usually be, kind enough to fly me out to be with them wherever they were.
Okay. About how many times would that happen in a given year, if you can estimate for us?
2 to 3. Yeah. And it'd be like, sometimes I'd be with them for like a month, sometimes just a couple of weeks.
Okay. Can you just generally describe for us very briefly your husband's relationship with Mr. Depp?
It's a great one. They are very close professionally and personally. I know that Stephen really respects Johnny and looks up to him. And Johnny's been a mentor to him and has really encouraged Stephen's career develop.
I wish I looked that cute when I had my hair in a messy bun.
And can you just very briefly and very generally tell us what it was like on those time periods when you were spending time, chunks of time with Mr. Depp and your husband?
Well,
It's basic foundational fact, Your Honor.
I'll allow it. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. What was the?
Yeah, she's already forgotten the question. Just real quick, I want to show you guys this. Coolest Reviews made it for me.
This is CR, Coolest Reviews. Tonight, we have a very special guest, the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker killer. So, Kai, you've just brained somebody. You have 25 seconds to convince the world that you're a good guy. And go.
No, you're not. I mean, it doesn't seem like you have any concern for yourself. You're all about, doing the thing and not even worrying about Kai first.
If anybody's watching this somewhere else and they got a mini mouth that they could lend a guy with a wetsuit, I'd love to test out Mavericks.
Would you do it again?
Club him in the head with a hatchet?
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
That's my favorite. That is my favorite.
So cute.
Love it. All right, here we go. I'll get over there's 21 of y'all. Don't make me be this person. There's 21 of y'all in here, and I have 8. That's 8 likes. Thumbs down if you want to, but something.
I see over 20 likes.
Do you? Why does it? Well,
no, you have 30 likes.
The YouTube's is lying to me. Let me close it and look again.
Yeah, you have 31 likes.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Thank you, guys. The YouTube's has done. See, the YouTube's is an instigator.
Question, sorry?
All right,
Just
here we
generally
go.
describe for us.
Okay, so if they were working, it would be, like on wrap, we'd kind of have dinner together.
Hey, DTC Prime Time.
And then I'd kind of entertain myself while the boys went off to work. If it was during downtime, it would probably be like a family holiday. So it would include his long-term partner, Vanessa, and their little kids, which was always really lovely, really happy memories there. So it kind of depended.
Okay. How well would you say you know Mr. Depp?
Very well.
Okay. Over the course of your friendship with Mr. Depp, and I apologize, did you say it had been 17 years?
I'm not great at maths, but 2005 to now, I think, is 17.
Close enough. Okay. Over the course of your friendship with Mr. Depp, have you ever seen Mr. Depp take drugs?
Yes.
And which ones?
I've seen him smoke weed and occasionally cocaine.
Okay. Have you ever seen him drink?
Yes.
All right. Have you ever partaken of any of these substances at the same time?
Yes.
Okay. About how many times would you estimate you've seen Mr. Depp use cocaine?
Oh gosh.
Oh, that's
I mean,
bad.
It's usually like kind of a celebratory event, like after a gig or a party or something. 20? I don't know. 20 times over the.
About 20 times.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's
I mean, yeah, I haven't been kind of keeping count, but it's not a regular thing. Sporadic. It's
okay, and that's 20 times over what period of time?
gosh, I think like the last maybe 10 years.
And how often have you seen Mr. Depp consume alcohol?
Since I've met him.
Okay. Can you describe for us how Mr. Depp seems to respond to cocaine?
I quite honestly can't gauge much difference in his demeanor. This stuff kind of tends to make the average person a bit chattier and maybe stays up a bit longer than they should, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay. Same question for alcohol. How would you say, based on your interactions with him while he's drinking, how does he seem to respond to it?
It's kind of annoying, but he holds his liquor very well. Gosh, I kind of more jovial, or just I've honestly never seen him like drunk. Never been with him in that kind of situation.
Does he seem to drink to excess in your experience?
No.
Have you ever seen him get angry or violent while on cocaine?
No, definitely not.
Have you ever seen him get angry or violent while on alcohol?
No.
Ms. Duders, do you know Amber Laura Heard?
Yes.
And when did you first meet Ms. Heard?
When did I?
Yes.
Well, we met kind of very briefly on the set of The Rum Diary, but it was just kind of quick greeting in the craft tent, I think.
No, you're okay.
And just so
I didn't know if you thought
page,
if you knew it was on.
I
The Rum
didn't.
Diary.
The Rum Diary is a movie that we shot in 2009 in Puerto Rico. And yeah, it starred Johnny and Amber. And I was there with Stephen. That was one of the times when I wasn't working, so I traveled out to be with Stephen, and I was around. I did. And
I have to agree
doing
with you,
everything with the visual
DTC
effects
Prime
department,
Time. Hey, listen,
mostly it
Mo
was
and
Angela
Allie,
Fee.
I'm going to need you guys to
Was there
step up
anything
your
noteworthy
game.
about your
All right.
interactions with Ms. Heard on that occasion?
If
When
they
did
ever
you last
ask
meet
you
Ms.
if
Heard?
you've seen me do cocaine, just be like,
We-
yeah, maybe once or twice.
I think a couple of years later.
Don't be like
Rum Diary
taking
She's
a
was
long
just
time.
chatty
in the
on it.
premiere in London.
Well, yeah, she's a lot of
And
fun. Look,
again,
Jen's
it
a
was
lot of
just
fun
a
anyway. She doesn't need
kind of,
enhancements. But here's the thing. What wrecked it is the fact that she made the face. Oh gosh, right? And then she's like did what Todt was supposed to be doing yesterday, closing his eyes and imagining, and it just took her too long and to calculate, which makes it appear like a ton. Yes.
And then she looked at
exact-
Johnny like, sorry.
Like, oops, I don't want to snitch you up, but I can't lie. I can't.
I just can't.
I just can't.
So, did you guys watch all of this before tonight?
I
Okay.
didn't watch any of it.
I watched the very end of it. Now, is it just is there a break in her testimony? Does she stop and then come back?
No. Well, no. No.
Oh, I have her sped up. That's why.
There is a break, but that's
Right,
coming.
that's the situation. But because when I watched her testify this afternoon, now granted, I was watching her at normal speed. She's now she's not at like Al Pacino and Scarface sped up. She's more like she's more like the chick from Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke when she did the comment, right? Fast. But in reality, this is her testimony, because I remember her seemingly being more like sedated.
You know, greeting. It wasn't, we didn't kind of hang out, chat properly or anything.
And again, just so everybody's on the same page, what is a press tour?
A press tour is when a film comes out.
Yeah, this sounds more sedated than I thought. Okay, she's right. I'm right. Okay.
And show it in different cities all over the world. And
I think she
had to do interviews to promote it.
maybe
just get
took
the
an
word out.
extra Xanny to calm her nerves,
And
which
this
is
was a press tour for
understandable.
London.
I'm not judging.
And what city were you in?
I went to the London one.
And does anything stand out to you about your interactions with Ms. Heard on that occasion?
No.
Were you aware at that point that Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard had started a relationship?
Yes.
And how were you aware?
Because Depp's team.
That's an excellent point, DTC Primetime. I want to make it clear that I'm not advocating for my two friends on panel here to step up the drug use. What I'm advocating for is the way that she didn't want to talk about it because she is his friend. She wanted to protect him. I just want to make that clear. I'm not encouraging drug use. I'm not against it either. That's between my name's Paul, and that's between y'all.
Constant.
I don't
flow of
judge.
information. Because ultimately, Jerry Judge would be looking after Johnny, so would kind of get updates as to where they were going and what he was doing, and so in that way, we got kind of notified that they just got together.
And you mentioned a name there, Jerry Judge. Can you just tell the jury who that is?
Yeah, who is that?
Okay, I don't want to be upset, but Jerry Judge was Johnny's longtime security guy, and he, was a dear individual. We all loved him very much, and he was like family. He was like a dad, and unfortunately, he passed away.
When did you next see Ms. Heard after the press tour in London?
Okay, so that was like 2011. I think it was on a trip that we accompanied Johnny and Amber on to Las Vegas for a few days.
Maybe we should try to play. Hold on a second. Let me push pause real quick. We're almost done. This is her testimony's not very long, but I just want to say this. I think we should play a little game. Every time how many times does Johnny Depp's attorney touch his hair during testimony? Let me give you a spoiler alert. It's like 11 billion. He does it constantly. He's always fixing and adjusting, and it's kind of distracting. Yes, ma'am, Allie?
Yeah, sorry. I want everyone to pay attention to Amber during this last bit.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah. Keep your ojos on Amber. Hi, Crackling Rosie, True Crime. Hey, Chick Tracy. All right, ready? And go.
I'm so sorry, I'm banking on the date, but it would have been after they started seeing each other, maybe a couple of months afterwards, and we just went out there for a few days. I don't remember if it was just like a little excursion for them, or if Johnny had something to do there. I don't remember that. It was just for like 2-3 days.
Anything stand out to you about that trip?
I was kind of excited to meet Amber, because she was Johnny's new girl, and but I remember kind of trying to, kind of make eye contact, and I kind of felt a bit ignored, which is fine, with staff or whatever. So I didn't really chat with her.
When you say staff, what do you
Well, I mean, I'm not employed by Johnny, but I'm obviously Stephen's wife, and he's staff, and I didn't really interact with her.
Okay. So can you kind of describe what happened when you saw her then, if anything?
No, nothing of note. Just that she didn't really engage or make, just didn't really acknowledge our presence.
Did you see Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard interact at all on that trip?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you describe that for us?
They seemed pretty in love. They were tactile and, they seemed happy.
Okay. When did you next meet Ms. Heard?
When Johnny and Stephen had gone out on location to shoot The Lone Ranger. So I think that might have been the next year. So out of date, sorry.
I wish I could be this
yeah, so-
uncomfortable when
so,
somebody asks me a question
you know, I
about
think
somebody
through
and they want me
Johnny
to
and
talk
Stephen,
crap about them.
Amber and I were kind of put in touch, and we went vintage shopping together, and
I would just be telling
went
it.
to get a coffee once.
She looked like she didn't
and then
even
with
want to speak
Johnny and
on it.
Stephen,
Here we
kind
go.
of
Now watch. Pay
showing some
attention,
galleries,
y'all.
art galleries.
About how long would you say the period was that you and Ms. Heard were together in this time frame?
How long were we both out on location?
Right. Yeah.
I'm not sure about her, and I know that I personally made 2 trips, which seemed to coincide with her being there. So it was nice. And kind of meeting up to go vintage shopping. She was really, really lovely, really sweet. We got on very well, and it was fun. It was, she's very charming.
Did you discuss her relationship with Mr. Depp at all?
I remember going for a coffee, and she seemed a bit, just a bit kind of frustrated that I don't think Johnny was ready to go public with their relationship yet. I think that was
Hey, Kes Chick, welcome back, babe.
frustrating for her.
Did you form an impression that she wanted to go public immediately?
All right, I'll sustain as to speculation. Next question.
Were you out in public?
Yeah. Yes.
When you were interacting with Ms. Heard in this time frame, did you notice at all whether she was wearing makeup?
No, I don't think she was wearing makeup. She's naturally beautiful. It's, I remember, just thinking how gorgeous her skin was and how, pretty she was.
And I mean, how could you tell that she wasn't wearing makeup?
Well, I consider myself to be quite the makeup expert. Earlier on in my adult life, I kind of got hormonal acne, which was awful. So I got kind of professional at covering that up. So I think I'm pretty good at telling if someone's wearing, like foundation or concealer.
Have you ever heard of arnica cream?
Yes. In fact, I actually was using it the other week.
You can use the microphone. I was having trouble hearing you. I'm sorry. Oh, there you go. It's on. There you go.
The question was, have you ever heard of it? And she answered it and then continued past. So it's.
All right. She's answered the question.
She's answered the question.
All right. If you want to ask another question.
Sure. You're on. What is it?
It's a homeopathic lotion that you use to help bruises heal faster.
And have you ever used it yourself?
Yes. I was using it a couple of weeks ago because I had a huge bruise on my hip after I had a fall.
Oh boy. Don't make that face when you say fall.
Can you just
People
describe
are going to
for
think you were
those of
pushed.
us who have no idea, like myself, what does arnica cream look like?
Oh, sorry, that was me. It's kind of like a white emollient cream, opaque, that you rub into your skin. You rub into the bruise.
Once it's been rubbed in, what does it look like?
Transparent.
Okay. So is the bruise still visible?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Sustain as deleting.
Understood.
All right.
All right. After that, those interactions with Ms. Heard on the set of Lone Ranger in, did you say 2013?
I'm not sure if that's an objection, but
I'll withdraw the date, Your Honor.
remember-
After your interactions with Ms. Heard on the set of the Lone Ranger, Ms. Duters, when do you next recall seeing Ms. Heard?
I think it was on the press tour for Lone Ranger. By that point, I believe their relationship was public. And we traveled to Japan with their kids, Johnny's kids, and her friend, Brittany. who I think was, an arm's Am's friend, but also to help take care of the kids while, Johnny was working.
And why were you traveling to Japan again?
Because the Lone Ranger was premiering there and they were doing press. And then we also traveled to Berlin, I think, as well, and all around.
Were you traveling with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Yes.
Okay. Did you witness any interactions between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard on these trips?
I mean, just generally on the plane, nothing to note. There was an incident when we were all at dinner together. And when I say we all, I mean also the other actors and the producers and director. And I noticed that Johnny was kind of hiding a drink on the side of his chair and taking secret sips. And I noticed, she kind of saw that and was quite angry about it. And I couldn't hear what was said, but he seemed to be kind of got told off by, telling off, which was, it was kind of weird. It was a bit like telling off a child.
What was he drinking?
I think it was champagne.
Okay, like a flute of champagne?
Yeah, something like that.
Do you have any impressions of how would you describe their body language when they were having this conversation?
Excuse me.
Quite, I think she was really angry. So, yeah.
This is terrible. Get it out, lady. Bless your heart.
Just kind of dominant and
were they tense?
Just very angry and putting just.
We weren't there. No, we don't know. That's why you're on the
him
stand when we're asking you.
Okay. And how would you
because we don't know.
I think quite just exhausted by the whole.
There you go.
Being told off like a child.
Over this period of time, and just to clarify, were Ms. Heard and Ms. Depp public at this point?
Yes.
Okay. So it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we arrived at airports, there was photographers everywhere. So, and we, it wasn't very public. Yeah.
Okay. Over this period of time, then, after they'd gone public, did you ever witness them together? Did you have a perspective on their interactions in general?
Is your mic is on? Because I'm just
Pushed it, I'm sorry.
there. Now it is. Okay, thank you. All right, objection.
Relevance Foundation leading.
Well, their interactions are directly relevant, Your Honor. I can lay more foundation if the court wants.
You don't lay foundation. That's fine.
Did you ever witness Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp together in this time period?
Sorry, could you repeat? Sorry, I know you said it a few times, but could you just repeat it one more time?
Of course. Over this next couple of years,
get the crayon.
after
She needs
the
a
press tour
picture.
for Lone Ranger. Did you have occasion to interact with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard at the same time? Did you see them together?
Very rarely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe a dinner here or there.
Okay.
Yeah.
From those occasions when you did see them, did you form any impressions about how they were getting along based on their interactions with each other that you personally witnessed?
Still don't think it's established a foundation. It's been a few times that he saw a couple dinners and she's asking for her perspective on their relationship.
Okay.
On those particular occasions,
What's the relevance of her impressions?
I'll rephrase.
Okay.
How would you describe their interactions on those occasions when you witnessed them?
It's the same thing, Aaron. It's still no foundation.
I like it too.
She's present.
I'll allow it.
Because it's looking. I like it when he's tasseled. That's not the right word. Tussled.
They seemed okay. I mean, they could be quite tense, but nothing to note. Nothing I would.
So why are you here today? You have anything of note to say, lady? You're not helping. You're sort of making it out like it's not a big deal.
Were you invited to their wedding?
Yeah. Yes.
And did you attend?
Yes.
Okay. Can you just generally describe for us what the wedding was like?
It was definitely a predominantly Amber event in the sense that a large percentage of the guests were her friends and family. And, you know, a lot of his friends and family couldn't make it because it seemed to happen so quickly. And yeah, they seem to be having, her and her friends seem to be having a wonderful time.
Where did the wedding take place?
On Johnny's Island in the Bahamas.
And did you have any interactions with Miss Heard
I
during this
want
time
an
period?
island.
Sorry,
Yes.
Did you talk to Miss Heard when you were at the wedding?
Yeah. You know, there were dinners, and it was certainly a
Don't say that, Jen.
a celebration every
No
day.
islands.
You know,
I just
Amber
want my
and
own
her friend
island. I'm
Rocky
not inviting
gave me
anybody.
my first,
It'll just be
taste
me.
of MDMA. You know, and everyone, you know, like all her friends were on it, and so I tried that for the first time with them. Yeah, it was like a party atmosphere.
Okay.
Maybe you should have left the
Just briefly, can
drug
you
use that
sketch out
wasn't
for us in a
asked
little more
about
detail
out of it.
how you came to take MDMA on that at the wedding.
Oh, well.
Oh, you know, they were
It was
passing it
evening
around. It's a
time.
wedding.
I
What the
think
fuck?
I was a bit hungover from the day before, and I can imagine those two saw me. And when they first dropped the pill into my hand, I thought it was like a supplement, like a vitamin supplement to make me feel better. But
A
no,
vitamin
they quickly said it
supplement.
was MDMA, and I kind of decided to throw caution to the wind and just try it.
You mentioned that you traveled with Mr. Depp and Miss Heard to Japan and Berlin and possibly other locations as well. Can you tell us where else you traveled with him?
Well, after the wedding, we headed to Australia
And why did you go to Australia?
because that's where Johnny would be shooting Pirates 5.
Okay, and approximately when do you think you were in Australia?
I think that I flew with Johnny and Jerry Judge and Stephen and a few others. I think that was February. And Johnny stayed in a house, and Stephen and I were based like a 35-minute drive away on the shoreline in the hotels. And I think Amber flew in a while afterwards.
Okay.
I'd like to
You said
visit
you thought it was
Johnny
February.
Island.
Do you recall the year?
Never mind. That's not professional. Sorry.
Yes, I do. 2015.
So just so we have the cast of characters clear, who from this group was in Australia at this point?
So we've got on the plane that I was on, it was Johnny, Jerry Judge, Stephen Duters, Debbie Lloyd, and myself, and maybe one other.
Okay. You mentioned a name there I don't think we've heard before. Can you just tell the jury quickly who Debbie Lloyd is?
And here it comes.
Okay.
And look, Johnny's not even paying no kind of, hardly any never mind at all. And Amber's over here acting like she didn't just do what we all just saw her do. Oh. Johnny Depp, you're so good looking, but dude, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm gonna have to deduct points for you being
Ladies
a
and gentlemen,
Coke
of the jury, we
drinker.
just have to take a few housekeeping matters up, so we're just going to have you take a recess for a few minutes, okay? So again, no outside research and don't talk to anybody, okay?
The hair and the color is reminiscent of Johnny Depp circa What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
All right. Ms. Duders, I just had a question for you. Have you been watching the trial this past week?
I've seen clips of it online. Yeah.
You've been watching, so you have seen parts of this trial?
Yeah.
Okay, and witness testimonies?
Yeah, I've seen clips of.
You've seen it, thanks. All right, does anybody have any follow-up questions?
Ms. Duders, have you been watching?
It doesn't matter, she's been watching clips of witness testimony. All right, you're excused, ma'am, you can have, you're excused.
Okay.
Thank you. I will instruct the jury, they'll have to strike the testimony of Ms. Duders. There's a rule on witnesses, Mr. Moniz.
Understood, Your Honor. This is the first word.
I believe that. I have no doubt in my mind that this is the first you've heard of it. Have a good day, ma'am. Thank you.
Hold on a second.
It's better off I got it the first time. Thank you. Your next witness is going to be on deposition, right?
Yeah, we're done for today.
How did they figure it out?
See, this is the problem. This is what I don't understand. What this is what I was trying to ascertain, exactly what you asked. Amber is the one that passed the note to the attorney, asking her notifying them, okay, that she had watched clips. But what I want to know is, how did she know that in the first place? And that's the part I don't get. Somebody had to have caught her doing that in order to report it back to Amber, for Amber to report it to her attorneys, because anybody that was subpoenaed in this case and told they were going to be testifying is not allowed to watch any of the trial, period. None of it. And in particular, and especially witness testimony, other witness testimony. It was part of the order.
Right. I guess I didn't see the note pass, but that's so weird. Well, why'd she let her go on so long? And I didn't even see how she was helping or hurting anything.
Because you don't know why she was up there. So the reason, and I couldn't, at first it got past me too, but the reason that she was called to testify in the first damn ass place is because she was there in Australia, and Australia is one of the situations that Amber is alleging she was abused. And the plane ride is when Amber said that Johnny Depp, that's the whole half a whiskey bottle, two bottles of champagne, and whatever else she accused him of taking that day. But he was blackout drunk and he kicked her in her back on that plane.
Oh, okay.
And and that's really the whole reason I think that they had even called her to testify, was to establish
horrible.
that didn't happen.
Well, I don't know if she would have even proved her point, because she was horrible. Sorry, lady. You seem sweet, but
I think she was on something for sure.
she seemed like she didn't want anybody on any side or anywhere mad at her. I bet what just happened now has devastated her.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And if you think about it, unless that lady went on social media, which I highly doubt, and posted, hey, I'm watching the trial and I'm about to go on the stand, nobody would know that unless you're in her inner circle, right? Like her husband,
Right.
and Lord knows who her friends are.
Unless she watched it somewhere on social media and gave an inadvertent like or heart, because those can be traced. You can see you can see the reactions.
Or she was watching it in the plane or somewhere, and somebody saw her watching it. Because they got money to be following these people around.
Well, yeah. But there's all kinds of ways that they could have done it, but which would include, them being watched, but it's all, you have to be reasonable too. And remember, how many times have you guys in this that are watching this right now have been scrolling through your Facebook feed? You got a little too overzealous with the scrolling. You scrolled too far and you realize you liked a post, not intentionally, but the like is there. It happens. And if that is the way and that's the thing.
Yeah, it could happen with that lady for sure.
It could happen with, it could happen with anybody. So, and this is why I'm saying this, because when they asked her that question, they had a 50-50 chance of catching her. One, she was either going to do exactly what she did, which was to tell the truth, or two, she was going to lie, in which case they would have to prove that she lied. So they have some piece of evidence that shows that she watched a trial, watched clippings, and yeah.
And Amber let her sit there for quite a while. And if you go back and watch it, she has the same expression on her face the whole entire time. I mean, she is cool as a cucumber. I just feel like, and obviously I don't have evidence, but I just feel like she knew. I mean, she knew.
Of course she knew, because she could have stopped her at any point. But when did she stop her? Right as they were getting to the meat and potatoes, which was Australia, and that plane ride. That's when she chose to stop it. This was a shitty attempt at throwing a rock and hiding her hands. If she would have said it in the minute that she sat down and testified, right, then people might have felt some type of way. But the fact that she let her sit there and testify and stopped her short of the whole reason she was there to testify in the first place, she's a snake. She did it she did it intentionally. She waited for the opportune moment. She let her get out what she wanted her to get out, which was how uncomfortable she was. She let it slip that they were passing around ecstasy at the wedding. She made that horrible, God, I don't know how many times I've seen Johnny do cocaine. A lot, but it's sporadic. I mean, she was a terrible witness, and she let her sit up there and be a terrible witness until the opportune moment. She didn't want her testifying about Australia, and she got her way. And at the same time, she was a terrible witness. So now the jury is probably sitting there like, but it could go either way. Well, not now that her testimony is stricken. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she sat up there and testified that Amber and her pals are the ones that gave her the ecstasy in the first place. It wasn't Johnny Depp. But now her testimony is stricken from the record and the jury can't consider it. So Amber can continue to portray herself as, I was trying to get Johnny cleaned up. I was trying to get him sober, and he was out of control. Well, no, you cannot unring a bell. You're absolutely right, Sugar Beet. The truth, but the thing is, they can't unhear what they heard. But what they can't do as well is talk about what they heard. So even though they're aware, you can't unhear something, you can't unknow something, right? But what they're not allowed to do is take that thing they're not supposed to be talking about and talk about it during deliberations. So if it plays a factor in this at all, we'll never know, because they're not supposed to talk about it when they go back to deliberate.
I would have never had her as a witness in the first place. But now I see why we watched that. Because I was like, why are we watching this? But
Well,
now I get it.
they needed her to be the witness that she was, because
Well, yeah.
she was trying very hard not to talk shit about either side, quite frankly. None of the people that have been called really want to be there.
Right. Well, that artist was pretty cool.
Yeah, but he didn't want to be there. He thought this thing, the whole
Right.
situation was bullshit. None of them want to be there because they know the kinds of questions they're going to get asked, which is why they are.
And they know how publicized it is, and they
yeah.
know public outrage.
I
mean, I'm the same as her. I hate when people are mad at me. I can't stand it.
Go ahead, Ellie.
Sorry. I just wish his lawyer, the guy that touches his hair all the time, I really wish he had a little more spark in him.
A little more oomph.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, he could be a little more passionate, but I think he's up there for the most part because he's the one that's the more experienced attorney, and Amber's attorneys are objecting left, right, and center. I mean, they're objecting over everything. Oh, she snipped. Objection. He rolled his eyes. Objection. He laughed. Objection. I mean, they just object over everything.
So do you think her lawyers knew about this and held off, or that she's the only one that knew and held off?
No, they knew.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I
for
thought
sure.
somebody said she passed a note.
She did. They knew.
Yep, they did know. And if you watch the lawyer sitting in the middle behind, on the table behind her, he was scrolling on his phone for quite a while. She writes the letter, or she writes the little Post-it note, sends it back, and then
he stands up.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to rewind.
Because this is what I promised you she was doing. She's probably telling him the specifics, whatever it was to look up. That's what he looked up. She was reminding him where to search. She gave him the timestamp, if you will. Her intention was to thwart the testimony she was about to give about Australia. And I forgot, I was going to say something else, but now I don't remember.
I also think she knew that lady's personality, and I think she wanted her to look a bit like a fool. She knew she was going to look a bit like a fool.
Right. See, this is the conundrum that Johnny Depp's lawyers face. Okay. They know that Amber's attorneys are going to bring out any and all dirt on every witness that testifies. They're doing their job. That's what they're supposed to do. All right. So the only way. Oh, what?
Oh, I thought I was muted. He even takes his phone up to the judge.
Yes. That's why I suspect it was a like or a heart or an accidental retweet. I doubt it was an accidental retweet because I think there's a 2-step retweeting. So, but I'm sure there's a like. But the defense or the Amber's attorneys are going to bring out every speck of dirt on any witness that comes up and testifies for Johnny. And the thing that they have is that the partying. It's they haven't brought out any really salacious other than that. But that's why they call these people, and that's why they get them to testify first. They're getting ahead of it because it's an attempt to make it appear as though they're not trying to hide anything. His attorneys are realistic. And they're saying that, yeah, Johnny Depp partied like it was 1999 almost every day, frequently, with some breaks in between. But that does not mean that he did what she is accusing him of doing. She can be telling the truth about the substance abuse and the alcohol and still be lying about the domestic violence. It's not mutually exclusive. And that's why they're bringing it up first. They're getting ahead of it. They are, this way, they are in control of the narrative. They don't want, and what would have been worse is, for example, they continued to let her go, right? And she gets to cross-exam, and they ask her something and that she hasn't addressed already. That's how they get people backed into a corner, is on cross-exam. So that's
You
it.
can so much tell a difference from the trials we've watched where you have money for a good lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at Chazel's compared to this trial.
Well, to be fair,
It's sad that it's that way, though.
Well, to be fair, I don't think that Chandler Halderson didn't get a good defense because he lacked money. They didn't really, to be quite honest with you, they did. I don't know what any attorney could do.
Well, it's true.
With that situation, there wasn't a whole lot of room for them. I mean, you could bring in Mark Garagos, you could bring in
Disney Watts,
any of them. Jose Baez. Chandler's case was an uphill battle from minute one. And I think that his attorneys probably were initially advising him, look, bro, you need to just let's see if we can negotiate a plea. There was nothing for them to defend. What were they going to do? Argue, object, or cross-examine the witnesses that, and say weren't they alcohol? Didn't they drink all the time? Weren't they cold? I mean, even if they did drink and consume a ton of alcohol, none of that would have helped Chandler.
Right.
They had so much forensic evidence that there was no way. And the other thing they were up against was, okay, so if Chandler didn't do it, then usually they will try to point somebody in the nonstop mom. Then usually they'll try to give an alternate suspect. Well, who were they going to give an alternate suspect? Their bodies and the weapon were found on a farm that was his girlfriend's mom's partner. So that would mean that who had access to that farm? So what are they going to do? Blame Dulce?
Right. DTC, she covered that trial too. That's why he's on the screen. But it's hilarious. You called him Disney Watts.
Oh, yeah. He is the Disney Watts. Yeah. We just finished up with Todt right before you came in, I think, DTC. But yeah, bottom line is money talks and bullshit walks, and you do get a better defense. And the reason that happens is because you have the funds to pay these attorneys to be solely on your case, 25/8. Where even if you don't get a public defender, you're going to get an affordable attorney, and the affordable attorney has other clients. He can't he or she just can't take your case and make it solely their case for, ever, for 25/8. They got to generate income and revenue. That's what it is. And exactly, Vincent Singer, they have the resources to do all of the investigating, the research, all of the paperwork, because trials like this are won by who has the most evidence. Well, all trials are, but this is going to be there's going to be a paper trail. This one is going to result in a paper trail, and we'll go over tomorrow. We're going to go over whatever happens tomorrow, but I want you guys, there's some parts of the doctor who treated Johnny Depp for his substance abuse. He was an addiction specialist, and there are some parts of his testimony that are very interesting. And I want us to watch that and to talk, about that. But I think for now we're going to end it. It's been almost 3 hours. It was so much fun. Thank you for coming up, Allie and Mo.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're you can come both y'all know you're welcome anytime. Anytime you guys want to come up. And thank you guys in the chat. Thank you to the mods. You guys are all great. So tomorrow we will be discussing more Johnny Depp tomorrow night at 9 Eastern. All right.
Good night. I gotta go potty.
All right, go potty. All right, because chick, I know, babe. I know. I'm sorry. I'll be live tomorrow night. We'll talk about all the things. All right, you guys. All right, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. You have a good Friday on Good Friday. All right, be good to each other. Take care out on these YouTube streets. Bye.